beautiful morning. Sitting by the smoker, barbecuing all night long. Life is good. Coffee needs some cinnamon rolls. Hey, wait a minute. Smoker's hot. I have the ingredients. Let's go make some cinnamon rolls in the smoker. It's beautiful outside. Let's make some cinnamon rolls. First thing we have to do is make the dough. We have flour, salt, sugar, yeast, water, and some milk and a little bit of butter. First thing we have to do is activate the yeast and the water. We have to bloom the yeast. We have half a cup of water. The water can be room temperature, or when it's beautiful outside and it's warm, it doesn't take long to just have warm water. We're going to take our active dry yeast and a pinch of sugar. The sugar is going to help give it food to start activating. You can already see it's starting to activate itself. Oh look, it's dancing! So now that our yeast is activated, we have to add all of our ingredients. We've got our milk with our butter first, followed by our sugar, our salt, and our flour. To help blend this properly, I'm going to go melt the butter with the milk. Make sure that your butter and your milk is not super hot or it'll kill the yeast. Room temperature is great. I'm going to add it slowly, stirring while I go, just to start incorporating everything. I'm going to go ahead and add the sugar. This is once again going to help activate the yeast as well as flavor the dough. Salt. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add all the flour. I'm not going to add it all at once though, because depending on where you live, humidity's high, humidity's low, sometimes it's clumpy, it doesn't quite mix exactly the same. Moisture has everything to do with it. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit at a time. You can start with at least 3 cups though. That's usually a good safe number. And then after that, we're just going to kind of see where we're at and add it as we go. All right, so that's good enough to start. I'm going to go ahead and start mixing this. Start with a wooden spoon and then eventually turning it onto the table and kneading it by hand. Of course, you can use a mixer if you want. We're outside today, so I'm not going to worry about a mixer. The idea here is to be minimalistic as possible. We're kind of at a point right now where I want to take the dough onto the table itself, and you're going to knead it by hand, get it nice and smooth so that it can rise, and we can roll it out and make some amazing cinnamon rolls. Making dough is so awesome. It's a great way to release tension. The easiest way to knead dough is you take the dough and you fold it over on itself and press with your heel of your hand, turn it 90 degrees and repeat the process over and over again. If you go too slow, the dough will get too cold and it'll get stiff on you. Now this process takes anywhere between 5 and 10 minutes. It just depends on how warm your milk and your butter was and the atmosphere outside and also how fast you're moving. All right, I'm done kneading. I'm gonna let this sit for about 10-15 minutes. Just let everything relax. It's kind of freaked out at the moment. I'm just gonna cover it up with the towel. So we have our dough resting. The next thing we have to do is to make the filling. You know, the great thing about cinnamon rolls is that it's a blank canvas. You can put anything you want in them. Some people just put sugar and some cinnamon and roll it up the dough and make cinnamon rolls. Or you can make it a little more exquisite by adding butter, brown sugar, cinnamon, vanilla, maybe some seasonings if you want. What we're gonna do today is we're gonna use butter, brown sugar, cinnamon, and vanilla. All we have to do is add everything into the bowl and mix it until it's light. You wanna make sure your butter is at room temperature or melted, or else everything won't blend together properly. You wanna make sure you're careful. Cinnamon has a tendency to kind of wanna poof and flour everywhere. When I was a kid, I used to put this on my French toast. No syrup needed. Our filling's ready to go. It's nice and soft. I'm going to set this to the side. Let's check our dough. In about 10-15 minutes time, our dough is nice and airy. You can tell that it's relaxed. It's a little softer texture. So let's roll it out. We're going to take some of this excess flour that we had before and we're going to dust the table. You don't want a whole lot of flour on there, just enough to make it so that it's not sticking. So we're going to press it down with our hands and roll it out until it's about 1/4 inch thick. We want to go into a rectangle as much as possible. Don't be too crazy about it. I always started out with my hand first, put a little bit of flour on the rolling pin, and get rolling. Notice as you Notice as I'm rolling, you can see it moving. Check the bottom, make sure there's not too much flour. We have a little bit too much, so I'm just gonna kind of brush it off. All right, that's looking pretty good. Now you can feel, if you just kind of run your hand over the top like this, you can feel that it's really thick on this end and it's pretty much perfect over here. So I'm not gonna concentrate anything over here. I'm gonna keep rolling this side just to kind of thin it out a little bit. And again, if it's not completely perfect, don't worry about it. You're gonna roll it up anyway. Next step, the filling. So now we just need to spread this out. We want to make sure that it's not quite all the way to the edge. We want to leave at least a ½ inch on each edge, because as you roll it out, it's going to kind of move itself. The filling is going to kind of move itself. So we want to make sure that it doesn't kind of like bulge out. We don't want to lose any of that yummy goodness. If your dough isn't uniform, and let's say it's tapered at one end and fatter at the other, start rolling by the tapered end, so that at the end of the roll, you have a completely long line. All right, so I'm just gonna start by folding it over on one end. Every once in a while, maybe tuck it a little bit. This will keep it so it's nice and tight, keep that coil nice and tight. We wanna keep that filling in there as long as possible while it's proofing and baking. All right, we're good to go. I'm gonna keep on rolling. All right, tuck the ends a little bit. We are good to go. Next step, cut, pan, and bake. Okay, so now we need to make these into cinnamon rolls. You can cut these into 8, 9, 12, 16. It just depends on how thick you want them. We're gonna try to aim for 12 pieces and put it into a half sheet pan. You need to have a greased baking pan. I'm just going to use a light canola spray. And we need to layer each one of the rolls into the pan. I like to take these end pieces right here, and I like to make sure that this side is down, just so that it's uniform all the way across the top. We put those in the corners. Man, these are beautiful. You can tell that it's nice and tight. And then just even everything out a little bit. Don't worry, if it's not perfect, it'll rise up and be perfect. Besides, the cinnamon rolls, it's always going to be perfect. All right, our cinnamon rolls are ready to go. All we're going to do now is we're going to cover them for about 10-15 minutes. Make sure our grill smoker is ready to go, and then we're going to bake some amazing cinnamon rolls. I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce you the Hollywood of the 270 smoker. If you want to take your food to Hollywood, it's the easiest way to get your food famous. You just get one of these babies. This thing is awesome. I had the pleasure of using one once at the American Royal Barbecue Contest and have been in love ever since. This particular model, like I said, is called the Hollywood. It's the squattier model, if you will. It's a little easier to move around, a little easier to use for pretty much anybody, be commercial, competition, or in your backyard. Wanted to just show you a couple of the different features. This particular model comes with 4 racks, as you can see here. You can put water pans down on the bottom to help give more moisture. It's got insulation. You dial this baby in and it doesn't ever come off. It's perfect. It's been about 10-15 minutes. Let's see what they look like. Oh, these are beautiful. It smells amazing. You can tell that they've already risen a little bit, and they're going to rise even more inside the smoker. Let's get going. Just like in the oven, setting them in the middle rack, close the door, close the latches. We'll check them in 10 minutes. So it's been 10 minutes. I want to, just like a regular oven, I want to make sure that everything's cooking evenly. We've only probably got about 5 minutes to go. This is a very fast recipe, but the smell is driving me crazy. I have to open this door. Just remember, if you're looking, you're not cooking. So go quick. Oh, look at that, baby. Okay, we got about 5 minutes to go. While we're waiting for the cinnamon rolls to bake, I want to address any fears you might have about baking in your grill or your smoker. Are you going to get any residual flavors inside the food that you're baking? The answer is no, as long as you have a clean burning smoker. It's been about 15 minutes. Let's take a look. Let's see if we're ready to go. Man, they smell good. Cinnamon rolls in a smoker. These are amazing. Check it out, man. The cinnamon rolls are all baked. Now we need to top them with something. You can go old-fashioned and just do a simple sugar icing, or you can do a cream cheese frosting or a buttercream. You can leave them plain if you like. I like to use cream cheese frosting. I've already made some up. The recipe is in the description below. Check it out. If you're using icing for your cinnamon rolls, you might want to add that while it's still warm. Helps distribute it, seeps down inside. It's really, really good. I've cooled these down a little bit because I'm using cream cheese icing. I don't want the cream cheese and the butter to separate. Use as much or as little as you like. I've even been known to have some extra. I like buttercream. Toughest decision of them all. Do you take from the center or the edges? I like it from the center. I like it nice and soft all the way around. That's what I'm going to go for first. I'm even going to garnish it with a little bit of cinnamon chips. You don't have to do that. It's just a little extra. It's a cinnamon roll, baked in our smoker outside. How cool is that? As promised, my coffee got a cinnamon roll, and I baked it in a smoker. This thing, you would never know that it was baked inside of a smoker. It's easy, folks. Just follow the steps. The recipe and the method is down below. Check it out. I'll see you next time on the barbecue trail. I'm Chef Philip Dell.